Hi guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Undisciplined. That's the word that immediately comes to mind following this Texas loss to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 38-35, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Congrats to them. I told you guys in the preview video when I was had my discussion with Tran earlier this week, the week before, really when we really went through our breakdown. I said going into Stillwater, night game, prime time, it's all mental. That Oklahoma State football team, credit to them for winning. They weren't a very good football team. They came out with juice. They had a good game plan. They had the 2 weeks to prepare, the bye week, whatever. So did we. We did not come in when we have this habit of playing to our opponent, whatever. We'll get to that. But when you come into a football game and earlier in the week you have a situation with two seniors and a guy who I had named as MVP, allegedly being late for meetings, that sets the tone for the rest of your football team. That sets the tone for what you're going to do on the field. Those guys owe everybody an apology. As a matter of fact, the seniors, and I give a lot of credit to John Tran. We'll have our recap show Tuesday as normal, Tuesday evening. He said it in terms of the disappointments. And I don't think he was trying to predict it for this particular game, but he said this senior class has been a disappointment in terms of their leadership. It showed from before the game, when you have your two senior corners who have loser mentality, we'll get to Chris Boyd in a second, to the last snap of the game with the Brecken Hager nonsense. And I don't care if you guys want to take it aside or whatever. It's too little too late. Where was that energy? Where was that energy and heat when Justice Hill was in the backfield and you're whiffing tackles repeatedly, not getting off your blocks, getting washed down, getting blown off the ball at the point of attack? I think it was very telling that Tom Herman decided to kick an onside kick instead of trusting his defense with 3 timeouts. Told you everything you needed to know. So just undisciplined with the penalties. All 3 phases of this football game, Texas played well below their standard and their talent level. Special teams, they begin the game off with a penalty. You end up, I don't know what they're trying to do, but they end up getting the ball basically around the 45-yard line, giving them the momentum they need. When you give bad teams hope, that's what happens. And yes, Oklahoma State, this is the same Oklahoma State that got their ass whooped by Kansas State. Okay? So don't sit up here and tell me and tell Taylor Cornelius, those quarterback keepers, everybody knew those were coming. Third down situation, PJ Locke, he's been a culprit on this show, and he's been the culprit on this defense, continues to be the case. Chris Boyd, just mentioned him with the suspension in the first quarter. You come in and get mossed. You come in and allow Tylan Wallace over 200 yards receiving, but you want to say you're good. And I'll never forget that quote. You're good. No, I'm good. Okay. We're going to see. And we've seen it. And we've seen it for the last 4 years with the roller coaster ride where it's been more valleys than anything else. And I'm sick and tired of, he'll get it on the next play. He mistimed his jump. It's nothing but excuses. He's very poor ball skills. He's not a draftable football player right now, in my opinion. And then on top of that, there's character concerns. When you're a senior on a team that's in contention for the playoffs, and you come out not only getting suspended, but with that type of performance, and you're not just playing for Big 12 championship playoff aspirations, but also your draft grade. All of that plummeted tonight. You have now, fortunately for him and the rest of this football team, they still have an opportunity to win the Big 12 and change some of those fortunes. They still control their own destiny in regards to the Big 12. They probably said goodbye to their playoff hopes tonight, and they have no one to blame but themselves. Yes, the officiating was atrocious. Yes, Chris Boyd did get held in the end zone on the Taylor Cornelius run, but you could also make the argument that Oklahoma State was held in the end zone on the Sam Ehlinger throws. Why were they held in the end zone? Because of undisciplined plays on special teams by Brandon Jones. Why was Brandon Jones in there? Because Deshaun Jameson couldn't field a punt. Deshaun Jameson looked a little shook on the road as a freshman, just is what it is. Indecisive on kick return. Now we have to go to our second guy. Mistakes start to happen. Wide receivers, Colin Johnson, he showed up too late, inconsistent, running poor routes, dropping the football. Yes, he had a great second half and showed up. Yes, LJ made some plays in the second half, but again, you're suspended. You're running to the line of scrimmage in 2-minute drill lackadaisical. Then the head coach decides he's just going to shut it down once the quarterback got sacked, and we get no points, and we're facing a 17-point deficit going into halftime. Then you come out in the third quarter, still too slow to turn it on. You come out in the end of the game where you need 2 scores, and it takes you 4 minutes to get downfield, and that exposes another issue. Texas has no downfield big-time playmakers. They have guys that are very good in the intermediate. All 3 of the receivers, when they're catching the football, because all 3 of them had drops, they're very good in the intermediate, and they're good at uncovering 15 to 20 to 30 yards, and then we can throw our deep balls. Basically become we try to challenge for pass interference calls, but we don't have that Hollywood Brown or that game breaker. And Tom Herman has alluded to that even after the Oklahoma game, saying they need to recruit more speed. They don't have that on the roster right now. They don't have that capability in terms of a home run threat, because it will change the way. When you do have that speed on the field, it will change the way that people defend you. That's why the Cowboys went on and did what they did in the NFL. But that's neither here nor there. Just across the board, Andrew Beck was penalized. Calvin Anderson was penalized. Brecken Hager was penalized. Recurring theme here, all seniors. Anthony Wheeler getting blown up at the point of attack when, we have to get a stop allowing 6 yards. Senior. This senior class honestly owes this football team an apology. A lot of people on this team owe Sam Ehlinger an apology, because he battled his ass off tonight, coming back from injury, did everything he could in terms of his rehabilitation and mentally getting himself ready to play. He was actually very sharp tonight throwing the football for the most part. There were a couple balls that sailed on him, but for the most part, he threw some very good catchable footballs and was a playmaker in the red zone, leading us on what almost a 24-point comeback, or 24 points scored, and then we waste that. And unfortunately, we didn't even get to die with the football today because our defense couldn't get a stop. I didn't love Todd Orlando's game plan, but I do give him credit. They only allowed 7 points in the second half, and they did a very good job of adjusting to what Oklahoma State was doing in terms of their tempo. But the tackling today, they left that obviously in the bye week. They left their contain in the bye week, and that's where I do get on Todd Orlando. Didn't love some of the blitzes from depth, and didn't love the contain stuff. Now, B.J. Foster has to make that tackle. I know I mentioned Chris Boyd getting held in the end zone, but that's irrelevant. That should have been a 5-yard run. And B.J. Foster is one of the most physical players on this team. I don't care if he's a freshman. It's too late. They've played too much football already. We have to hold them to a higher standard, and I expect him to make an open field tackle on a guy wearing the damn Sam Bradford sleeves. That's inexcusable. Get him out of bounds or get him on the ground. I know he's big, but he's slow and he's not athletic. Get him on the ground. Overall, short yardage defense was good in terms of the run game, but the 4th-and-1 passes, again, the seniors let him down. Kobe Boyce, was victimized repeatedly while he was in the game early. And then obviously Chris Boyd punctuated that. He was one of Oklahoma State's best players today. Let's just call a spade a spade. Overall, just pathetic effort by our seniors. And again, I'll talk to John about it, this week, and I'll get into the breakdowns. I don't have, stats right now. I know Sam battled his ass off. But the last thing I want to say is the team reflects the attitude of the head coach. Tom Herman, running on the field. I know you're embarrassed. I know you're emotional, all that type of stuff. But the way he carried himself at the end of the game is just a reflection of this team. And the reason why I say Oklahoma State is a bad team, I'm just going off of what I see on tape and what I've seen from them every week, I will say that they were well coached and they had a good game plan. But the fact that Oklahoma State executed almost as well as they possibly could, and they still almost lost this game. And we probably played D plus C minus football and lost by 3 on the road after making God knows how many errors, God knows how many 3 and outs. So when I go back to the head coach, just his demeanor, his attitude, that plays into how the team, responded tonight at times. And it was almost a sense of recklessness. And he's got to figure out how to channel that better. That's probably the next step for him as a head coach, because he has figured out a lot of things with this program. And I'm disappointed because of how they played today. But overall, I'm still very encouraged as to the position that we're in compared to where we were before the season started. But Tom Herman has to reel it in. We've seen this too many times from him, not just as a head coach at Texas, but as a head coach at Houston. Whether it was UConn or Navy, these types of games where you're playing an opponent on the road and there's a talent gap or a skill gap, we know you can get up for the big dogs. That's not up for question. That's why I know, like, if we're able, because now we're in that conversation, if we're able to make it to the Big 12 championship game, I know y'all gonna have an 8-1 game plan. But when we go to Texas Tech, or when we play Iowa State, Kansas, I worry about y'all because of that. Because the attention to detail is not the same. The attention to detail that they had in that USC, TCU, Oklahoma stretch is nowhere near the level of attention to detail they had today. And it started off the field. You're ranked number 6, and I started the video with that, and I'm gonna end the video with that. There's a certain, and I know Austin's a fun place, but there's a certain level of expectation and accountability that you need to have, not just with your teammates, but with yourself, with the people you represent. You are no longer the disappointing Texas team. You are no longer the Charlie Strong lovable losers. You guys were in contention for a playoff spot. It's real now. It was real. But it was too many people, I feel like, and I don't know what the situation was. So somebody please enlighten me, because I'm not buying the whole late to multiple meetings thing. Even though they said they were late to a meeting, then it turns into late to multiple meetings. I don't know what that means. But that attention to detail, that attention to, we're now the hunted versus the hunters, it changes everything. That's why it's so impressive what the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world do year after year with those expectations and with the level of notoriety that their players get. But we have to rein that in, and I'm just disappointed that it came from the upperclassmen. It's one thing if it came from our younger guys who just aren't used to it or what have you, but these guys are supposed to be role models within the walls of the athletic department, the facility, and the campus. So y'all let me know in the comments what you thought about tonight's game. It was a whirlwind. There's so much to unpack, and John Tran and I will try to get to as much as possible. Y'all start to kind of let me know, all the things. I know there's a lot we need to touch on, but just highlights that, you want to hear us further elaborate on, whether it was certain situations in the game and whatnot. So y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Real tough loss, but I really do think we'll be back. This West Virginia game now means so much to our hopes, but goals are still in front of us, guys. Hook 'em.